and welcome to another edition of Hard Copy, the program where we bring you the people behind the news. I'm Maokbe Ogun. For over 6 months now, the crisis in southern Kaduna has grabbed the headlines, refusing to be relegated to small print. Since October 2016, when Hard Copy launched its maiden edition, we've kept track of the issues raging between farmers and herdsmen, and warned that it could become a crisis of gigantic proportions if not managed properly. When we said that, only a tiny fraction of the communities, namely Godogodo in southern Kaduna, had been affected. But going by the signs from Agatu in Benue, Nimbo in Enugu, and Dori and Mesuma villages in Taraba, and the controversies stirred by the cattle grazing law of Ekiti State, we did not need a soothsayer to predict what the crisis could come to. Today, over 204 lives have been lost to the crisis in southern Kaduna, if we're to go by the conservative figures released by the federal government, because other groups, such as the Catholic Church, have put the number of lives lost in the latest crisis at over 800. Tonight, I speak with the chairman of the Southern Kaduna People's Union, Solomon Musa, and the Secretary General of the Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association, Baba Othman Ingerzama, to get their perspectives on the root cause of the latest conflict. Just stay with us. Oh, Mr. Solomon Musa, you're welcome to Hard Copy.
Thank you very much.
Let's get the perspective of your union, SOKAPU, on the origin of the renewed crisis in southern Kaduna.
Well, let me trace the crisis, or the renewed crisis, to around May 2016. 2016, our villages began to come under a lot of fire. People sleeping in their houses, people going to farmlands, are attacked without provocation, without cause, without justification. Absolutely no provocation of any nature. They have been attacked. And when it started first with the killing of a district head in Fadankarshi. He was killed by so-called unknown gunmen.
When was this?
That was around May 2016. And then thereafter, they moved to one community, Ninte community. And Ninte community was completely razed down. People were mauled like using a lawnmower. They were killed, destroyed.
At this time, you say
Yes.
this started in May.
Yes.
How long did this last?
From that time, it has continued almost ad infinitum.
Because it was seen
Yes.
that when this renewed attacks came into the
Yes.
media was when there was a crisis in Godogodo. That was when it would seem the media took note. It was much later in the year, I think about August.
Before that time, we had made a lot of press releases. Ninte community was around, first the killing of the district head of Fadankarshi was around May. And then by June, July, there were a lot of attacks. Ninte community was around June/July, was completely destroyed. And then it intensified. You see, at that time, the national media had not taken note. We kept writing. We kept issuing press statements. And these things kept being published. But somehow, it didn't catch national media attention until we began to really cry out. And then the media began to take note.
You say that there was absolutely no provocation for this.
As far as I know, and as far as our investigation. Yes, in a way, in the past, there had been a little farmer herders problem. There's no doubt about that. Little farmers, herders problems, etc. like that. But I'm sure you are aware of the fact that the governor himself said that, look, you can trace the root of this problem to 2011. That 2011, in his own words, that Fulani cattle rearers entered Nigeria all the way from 14 African countries. And then when they got to southern Kaduna, that they were caught in the mire of the post-election crisis.
Do you think that that could have been at the heart of it? Are you aware of any crisis that happened in 2011 that could have involved Fulani herdsmen? Are you excluding that?
It is possible. It is possible. Remember, it's not only Fulanis that are in southern Kaduna. There are Hausas, there are Atia people, we have over 60-something ethnic nationalities in southern Kaduna. And the killings, if there were killings in southern Kaduna, were infinitesimal. And I'm sure if there were any killings by anybody, you couldn't say, nobody was identified that, okay, this one killed this one, or that one killed that one. It is now that the narratives are being changed to say, look, Fulani people. So it's possible a Fulani man might have been involved, might have been killed, it's possible. But also, a lot of the ethnic nationalities lost their people too.
It's not, from what I remember, I recall that the governor, also talked about that particular crisis sometime in April 2016. And he had given that response in answer to a question when we asked him about securing lives and property. I think then Kaduna was doing an economic summit and looking for investors to come into the state. That was sometime in April, and we asked him, if he was willing to keep the peace. I mean, how he was going to keep the peace. And he traced the root of the, recent conflict, I think, that preceded his coming into office to the 2011 crisis, and stated the means through which he had tried to reach out and, make sure that there was some peace. As at the time we had that interview, that was in April 2016, there had been peace for about 6 months, at least on the surface of things. And he alluded to that much. So when you say that the governor himself did say that that could have been the root of the crisis, when the actual crisis started in May, do you think that explanation covers for what began to happen sometime in May?
No, I don't get, because the governor said so many things on your program, Sunrise Daily.
You watched it?
I watched it. I Googled it, I downloaded it, I watched it. I said several things, including the fact that from the time he came up to that time, there were no killings. And immediately, SOKAPU released a press statement to say, number one, the issue of 30%, the population ratio that he gave, which was quite strange, not empirical. We released a press statement to debunk that. We also released a press statement to say, no, there had been killings even after he took over. We released a statement, is within public domain, so, and then.
But he also gave one other instance.
Okay.
He talked about, Plateau State mirroring Kaduna State, that they shared the information they had with Plateau State, and that if we look at what's been happening on the Plateau has been pretty quiet for a while. Would you also debunk that as well?
I don't know about his reach to Plateau State, his relationship with Plateau State, whether he has reached them, whether what he did in Plateau State. I'm not in a position to actually say. Now, but let me say that if actually he has followed the pattern in Plateau State, like I said, I must confess, I do not know the pattern, what are the steps that they took. I do not know. I'm not sufficiently informed on that. But if he has reached that, then possibly he has not copied correctly. Because if he has, they followed a particular pattern, a particular procedure, and there is result, here we are not seeing results at all. Now, but let me also digress a little to tell you something. Around when the present administration of Kaduna State came into power, they were faced with a great menace, a great challenge, the challenge of cattle rustling in Bernungwari, Kamuku Forest. And you know what they did? What they did was they had some kind of synergy, some kind of network of all the governors of the northwestern states. Now, they carried out a very significant and important and decisive operation in Kamuku Forest because of cattle rustling. There was land, air, comprehensive and total attack, ground and air. And cattle rustling was brought decisively to an end. The same thing, of course, you recall that even in Zamfara State, the federal government went in there, the president himself graciously was there, donned military attire to ensure that cattle rustling was brought to an end, a special operation. Now, but in Kaduna State, Southern Kaduna, we were talking of cattle rustling. Cattle involved, stealing of cattle, not even killing of cattle, stealing of cattle. A decisive operation was carried out. Now, in Kaduna State, Southern Kaduna, human lives were involved. And we said, look, this administration, you showed a lot of commitment in Zamfara State, in Birnin Gwari and Zamfara State. If you could do this kind of operation there, just for the sake of cattle being rustled, please, can you replicate something like that? And even more in Southern Kaduna, because human lives were involved. And it does not matter whose human life is involved, do a decisive operation to rout and drive away the terrorists attacking Southern Kaduna communities. And nothing was done.
We will come to the solution shortly, because it would seem that, they definitely have moved away from that now. But we're still on the root cause of this particular crisis.
Yes.
Now, there's another group which says that no, some other people, the farmers, drew blood first. There's some people who say, I don't know if you saw it, they said that some farmer had gone to farm on the route, cattle grazing route, and at some point I think there was an accostation. Somebody was accosted. A Fulani man was injured in the process. Somebody else tried to take him to the hospital, and then somebody else was killed. I don't know if you listened to that particular story. Your group did not bring out anything to debunk that particular story as well, did you?
Let me tell you. The truth and the reality of it is this. The root cause of these attacks is simply traceable to the fact that, I don't know, maybe because God has blessed Southern Kaduna with lush land, with green vegetation, fair weather, beautiful scenery, etc. Some people have made up their minds. It's just like giving a dog a bad name to hang it. Some people have made up their minds that, look, you must be displaced. We covet your land. We must grab your land. And so because of that, there is a conscious attempt, a deliberate attempt, it appears, to bring in people to displace. That is why a lot of things have been done.
Is this something that
Is
this something that you have facts for, or this is something that you speculate as a group?
It's not speculation. It's things that we are seeing with our eyes. These are things, these are realities on ground. And I challenge you to take a trip to Southern Kaduna. Go, interview, because now, if you interview me, it will be said that, okay, I'm speaking on behalf of Southern Kaduna People's Union. I'm speaking maybe as an elitist. I'm trying to cover up this, that, but go and meet the people in the villages.
I'm not going to personalize this. Yes. I mean, Channels Television has been there. We currently have a correspondent on the ground. They're saying that this fighting is either way. The killings have been either way in both communities as well. It's difficult to tell in some instances who the aggressor is or who the victim is. But some people have said that, that your union seems to have a voice, and that's why you're heard the loudest. What do you say to that?
No. Let me, because you said the issue of whether a farmer. Do you know that the root cause is because the farmer? What about the Fadan Karishi district head that was killed without any provocation? Nothing. Was it because either his family or some members of his, maybe members of his community killed another person? Okay, assuming without conceding that kind of argument that, look, a farmer killed a Fulani man, which is not true, What about, if they say it's Ninte community, what about Godogodo community, Golkofa, etc., and several other communities? Is it to say that any of them killed Fulanis?
Well, we'll take a moment now. When we return, we will get the perspective of the Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria. Don't go away.